Hey guys, so welcome to episode number 2. Today we're going to focus on NFTs. So George,
John,
Carlos.
let's get started. Smart contracts. So that's just something on the so to say blockchain. So something that executes. It's just a means of execution. Then is what you're
correct.
saying.
So smart contract with Bitcoin being created, Bitcoin is allowing you to just be able to do peer-to-peer lending, right? So that's why Ethereum, all these other networks started to come up too, because you're kind of limited to what you can do with just money. You know what I mean? It's like a peer-to-peer lending of just sending money. That's not everything. You need to be able to integrate more of like, if you do this for me, then this will happen.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
It needs to be able to bring in more value.
More use case other than
More
just
utility.
exactly. So that's why Ethereum is completely separate from Bitcoin, and that's one of the things that a lot of people will misjudge. They think Ethereum is a direct competitor to Bitcoin, when it's really not that. You know what I mean? It's more of Bitcoin as a digital gold, and Ethereum and all these other networks like Cardano, Polkadot, those are more like digital oil. Because what can you use oil for? You can use oil for everything, which makes it thus more valuable because it's used more.
Okay. Yeah, and I guess so. Like, and for people that don't know, smart contract stuff, I guess we can get into that in later episodes. Like, how do you trust a smart contract? But how would you respond, Carlos? Maybe to as somebody who's like the newest one in the space out of all three of us. How would you respond to somebody, for example, like Joe Rogan, where he's saying, like for example, there's this app called Vivi, big with NFTs. They just made a partnership with Disney and dropped what they call Disney Moments, and they made golden NFTs of certain Disney characters. So one of their NFTs was Mickey Mouse with Walt Disney, and it's called the Golden Moments. It looks like a gold statue.
I saw that one, yeah.
So that one is at almost 10,000 per statue right now.
Yeah.
So that's a
And
lot.
how much were they sold for?
They were sold for
333.
and something.
$333.
Now they're worth.
So you had to pay $333 as a customer to buy
To
that
buy
whole
one.
thing.
Yeah, but you weren't guaranteed because there was a certain amount that dropped.
So if you paid it, you probably still couldn't get it, or is it like a
No,
you're
no,
just
no,
kind
no.
of
So
bidding to see if you can get it?
yeah, you're bidding to see if you can get it. So
Oh,
no,
okay.
you don't pay anything until
Like
you
almost
actually
like a
get it.
raffle system.
That's
Exactly.
on the drop. Yeah.
I actually have played around with Vivi, and honestly, I haven't had any luck with it. Like I feel like all the drops when I try to go and buy something, I put like $200 in, and every time I'm like I wait like a couple minutes before the drop, and it fucks up, or it just says like, hey, can't add to car, or like reloading or whatever it says. And honestly, like I get the aspect of like, hey, these are like the very first like Disney sponsored NFT, so I get where the value is there, but like I still haven't gotten over that hump of trying to like see the utility value of it. I know that there's like some, for example, I think there was like a one where there was like a movie ticket and you got to see the movie, and others you got like Disney Plus or stuff like that. So I think that's neat, but I think those are all like niche items. Like where's the actual value that I'm getting from this today? Or is it something that you're more so kind of holding on for long term?
Okay, so you can kind of see what Joe Rogan's saying. I'll explain it maybe in a way, but it's probably not going to be as good as John's explanation, because John had one when he explained it to me back then. But it's, to me, I kind of see it like shoes, kind of like shoes, maybe like Jordans, like that. I know that's something physical, but it's something that can sell for thousands of dollars, because people put value in that, groups of people put value in it, and they sell it on a third-party market. So it's not an official source like Nike or anything like that selling that. So it's just people putting in value to shoes, and making it worth that much. I feel like the same thing is happening with NFTs, because people are buying into the idea of everything's going virtual. We talked the last episode about the Metaverse. We're going to be immersed in a world where we can show off our digital houses with digital artwork and say, hey, I got this official Disney NFT. There was only, 1,000 dropped, so it's very, very limited, very rare. I mean, you can saturate the market, being Disney, dropping more and more over, but I don't think they're going to do that because it makes it valuable and they make a profit out. But I see it kind of like that. Jordan shoes, we give it value. NFTs, we're giving it value.
Yeah, I think NFTs, the main importance of it is that it gives the creator a form of being able to express their work. At the same time, it benefits everyone. And what I mean by that is, like you'd mentioned in the conversation of Vivi, Vivi did the partnership with Disney, which includes the subcategories of Marvel, Star Wars, all these brands that they are selling merchandise for right now. Because if you look at human nature, most people collect something. Most people, whether it's comics, whether it's, magazines, bottles, cars.
Subconsciously, they even
yeah.
So.
You typically you buy stuff, movies, all of that. Like vinyls. You spend all this stuff to be able to buy.
Cardinals tickets. When I was a kid, every Cardinals game I would go to. They were
ticket.
rare, but I would save the ticket.
You save it. It's you're keeping a part of what you feel makes you, and you're relating to whoever sold you that because they're expressing what they're selling. In the past, when there was sales with Marvel, when Marvel sold their original comics that are worth crazy amount of money today, the original comics, they sold for 10 cents, maybe even less. After it sold for 10 cents, the person who bought it, let's say, someone who originally bought it held when it was originally dropped or sold, and they sell it today for the amount of crazy money it is. They'll make all that profit while Disney doesn't make anything with it. So what I say, NFTs allow the integration and everyone basically wins because Disney's winning by just allowing Vivi to use their IP. Disney doesn't have to do anything other than allow them to create digital collectibles of them and of their characters or their IP and sell it. And every time it is sold, they made a profit of it, and every time it's resold on the market, they're making a royalty. So Disney and the companies are winning because they're making money off of passive income, royalty. They're not having to work.
So every time it's resold, Disney's making more money.
Disney's making 6% every time that's sold. So if it's $100 profit or $100 sell, they'll make 6% of that.
And who pays that? The buyer?
Yeah, well, whoever's selling it, they'll take that 6% half of that, and they'll take a 2.5, I think it is, for Vivi. So Vivi gets their royalty too. And then whatever extra profit is left, you can sell. So on that example of Vivi dropping that Disney statue, that Walt Disney, it was $333, which I attempted to buy and I wasn't lucky enough to get it. Because like you said, what makes them crazy too is that it has the same principle as Bitcoin, where there's a limited amount where that cannot be made. You cannot make more of those specific amount. You can make a similar brand or season 2 of that character or that thing, but you can never replace the original. Just like they make multiple versions of the same comic. It's the same exact comic or same movie, but it's a different version or a remake of that movie. You can't take away the original. You know what I mean? It's still
different versions of Jordan.
That's kind of like what I was gonna say, because regarding like the Jordan comment, like there's so many Jordans out there, right? There's a bunch of Jordans that are probably worth like $10, $20, right? Like just based off of maybe just a standard sale, and they've been worn like by like someone with crusty ass feet, and they're just like in Goodwill, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like I feel like that's kind of like my speculative side when it comes to NFTs. Like, okay, great, I'm sure this Walt Disney one will be that super prime like Air Jordan that came out when he was at the top of the league. But what about all the others? What about all the other random NFTs that are all coming out nowadays? Like, is that actually going to retain value? My speculative side is kind of thinking no, just because like they don't have that backing of like Disney or anything like that.
Yeah.
So what do they really have to back them?
I would say
it's the creativeness.
And I do think, and I've heard, I think I was watching a video online and somebody made a comment, I don't know who I was watching, but they said that they believe like a bunch of NFT projects will be nothing, So there is a lot of them that will end up going nowhere, and you spent money and you gambled it and you wasted it. It could be a little bit, it could be you spent a lot. So, but there is projects that will go nowhere. But like for example, Bored Ape Yacht Club. So that's one that has no backing of like Disney, no backing of like Marvel, nothing like that.
Who created that? Because honestly, like I heard of them, but I have no idea like what they are, who they are, what they do.
I think it was just a group of artists, a group of creators. He created it, and now that's a symbol for like elite people. I think for elite people.
It's
in
like
the
a
world.
club. It makes the exclusivity of that's the use case of it. The utility of Bored Ape Yacht Club. That it was an NFT project that someone, like I said earlier, what NFTs do, it basically gives the person who's releasing it. It's kind of like giving you stock, if that makes any sense. Like you become the stock. Because if you're a creator, if you're an artist, and you want to go out and release your work right now, what do? You go to expos, you make your art, you release it in person. When us integrating into the next evolution, which is digitalizing of everything, digital artwork is the same thing, but it's the same thing right now where someone can steal your artwork by just copying and pasting, just like Joe Rogan said in that video with Bored Ape Yacht Club. They were mentioning this. You know what I could do? I could just screenshot it, now I have it too. I mean, you technically have that picture, but you don't own that picture.
Yeah.
That's the
so
difference.
everyone like in Gen Z is like pointing at you, laughing at you. You're like, oh, I have it.
Yeah, but you don't own it.
You're like,
You don't own it. It's similar to me going on Google and looking up a bank account that has $1 million and flexing like that's mine. I can say all I want on screenshots of I have $1 million, but at the end of the day, do I have $1 million? No.
And can that person that has the actual NFT sell it for $1 million? Maybe.
That's why blockchain is so integral, because blockchain is basically an online. It's like a digital portfolio, digital way of keeping track of things. You know what I mean? So it's like, think about it kind of like a big digital whiteboard that is keeping track of everything that is purchased and sold.
Yeah.
So that way you can verify when you're going to sell it, you can verify. And like I had said in the last podcast, we're going to integrate, right now we're still in the beginnings. We're at 0% of the integration of NFTs. We're literally at the beginning because we're barely integrating use case. So going back to Bored Ape Yacht Club, their use case, the creator made their digital art, which was the Bored Apes. They made a certain amount of them and they sold them. Now when they sold them, people started liking them. Some people bought them. Some celebrities bought them. They started pushing that, like, if you buy these monkeys or these apes, you're going to be able to get special perks, such as connecting or networking with people that have, celebrity status.
So I have a question. So let's say you sell your Bored Ape Yacht Club. Are you no longer in the club?
Yep.
Do they kick you out?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Once you sell, you're out.
I heard they even have parties.
Yep, they have
only
yachts,
people with actual NFT of a Bored Ape Yacht Club.
And you have to show up, and how do they verify?
On the
On
blockchain.
the blockchain.
Well,
You have to have the apps, of course, and show.
Mm-hmm. They can verify on the button, and that's why the next step of NFTs too is the integration of social media, and that's why if you've noticed, Twitter, all these other places are starting to integrate verifying if you own that NFT when you put it as your profile pic. Because
I didn't know that.
well, there's different subcategories of NFTs with use case, like there's play to earn NFTs where that's applicable to gaming, where you're putting those NFTs within gaming systems like we discussed last time, kind of similar to like Star Atlas, or think of it kind of like Fortnite. You're putting that money in that particular metaverse. So the way it will initially work in the future is there's different subcategories. There's the gaming one, there's the utility case of, like Mr. Wonderful I had explained last time too, integrating that with real case scenarios. Shoes like Jordans and Nikes, those are going to have the QR codes of the blockchain on the shoes. So when you go to sell it,
it's real.
It's real. So they're tying in.
They've been getting very good at doppelganging,
in China. They're going
and
and they're making like jerseys. They're make fake jerseys. They can make fake anything. If you think about it, they can make fake anything. This is just verifying. Right now, for comics, if you need to sell a comic and you need to validate it's a legitimate comic or a legit thing, you have to get someone to come in and inspect it, verify it. You don't need to do that anymore. It's all on the blockchain. So anyone can verify it. You don't need the middleman of having someone to come verify. You don't need to worry about buying something that's fake or counterfeit, because the watches that Mr. Wonderful will sell will have the QR code on there, so every time it's sold, you'll know it's legit or not. And you can't fake that.
And what if someone just takes off the QR code?
No, I'm sure
it's integrated. You probably lose.
something.
Yeah, you probably lose value in it too, because.
And I'm sure if it's like scratched out or something, like you said, it's
you
worth
probably
it.
lose value. So
Because it'll be like an original watch, but it has like it's unable to verify or whatever.
Kind of like don't fuck up your nice Jordans that are gonna be worth thousands of dollars.
Like the creases and shit.
Exactly.
Well, Nike's already integrating NFTs too. They're gonna start making it where if you buy an NFT in Decentraland, they'll send you the actual pair in real life. They'll ship it to you. Just like Domino's.
Crazy.
I think it's Domino's in Decentraland, which is a metaverse. It's one of the biggest metaverses right now that's been around for a long time. They actually have a pizza, or I think it's like a pizza store. I think it's Domino's that you can go in, order, and they'll send you the real one.
Damn.
So they're adding that use case of being able to tie
the Nike one, do you keep the virtual pants too, like in your character, and so you have pants in real life.
Yeah.
And giving,
buy one get one free.
and giving it to creators, like that's just big brands. Like I said, Marvel getting those royalties. Nike, every time those shoes are sold again. Right now, when Jordans are sold, what happens? They make their base pay, and then whoever reflips them, they cop everything. Now Jordan, Nike, they're all going to get a piece of that action every time it's resold.
Yeah.
Every single time. And like I said earlier, everyone benefits because the buyer buys it at the initial price and can flip it for a profit.
Yeah.
So they're making that money. The collector is buying what they enjoy. So they're buying it as a collection or maybe as, to try and flip or make value of it later.
Yeah. Even though that's nice, like I think that's also like one of those things that it's going to cause more government intervention because now think about all those people that maybe would buy those Jordans and like cash and flip them and make money that way or however, right? With all the different products, now it's going to be on a verified blockchain system. The Nike's going to get a cut of that, and so that person that used to sell them like and make really good quick cash, or maybe selling like couches or whatever it is. Now they're subject to taxation. So now they're subject to the government.
Yeah, going digital is gonna probably help us lose some of our like.
It's a double-edged sword. It's a double-edged sword because at some point you're losing your privacy because they're able to monitor. Right now, if you're wanting to go buy drugs illegally, you can just get cash and buy it. They have no clue what you spent your money on unless they're following you.
Dollar.
Now everything will be tracked on the blockchain, so now they know what you. But at the same time, like I said, it's a double-edged sword because it'll counteract corruption in politics. People who are
transparent.
Because people are taking money, it'll be showing that it's being dispersed to that, or they're, you know what I mean. So it's more being able to see that record of it.
Our governments are gonna have to keep up with it really because I mean the reality is like right now we can kind of see a lot of the shit that like Nancy Pelosi her husband, investing in shit, but what are we actually doing about it? Our government still is 2 decades behind and still hasn't caught up, and we're already into the future. You know what I mean? So I think that's something that's going to be very telling in terms of who's going to step up and kind of embrace blockchain and cryptocurrency, and who's going to fall back and potentially get negatively impacted by it in the future.
Exactly, yeah. I think it really comes down to what the United States is going to use NFTs too. If you think about it, kind of progressing from collectibles.
I was just about to ask that. Besides comics, besides that stuff, there's other uses.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Passport.
Yeah, so identity. That's where government will use NFTs because you're able to use. Your social security card will be digitalized and it'll be verified on the blockchain. Your passport will be digitalized and it'll be listed on the.
That'd be nice, to be honest, because then you don't have to keep up with your dogs.
ID.
It's all with you.
Your ID too. Think about your ID.
The deed to your home, the title,
the ownership of your card, even your
taxes,
vehicle.
That could probably just come up on the blockchain eventually.
All of that will be integrated. So that's the future of integration. And right now, I know it sounds skeptical because there's really not that much use cases. I mean, you could, like you said, get a movie ticket. But at the same time, that's pretty cool. You can use this technology to be able to purchase something.
And you're always going to have that movie ticket. It's going to be right there forever. You don't have to keep a little jar like I used to have with all my movie tickets,
Yeah.
You just kind of have it all there. And I'm sure it's going to eventually grade into the metaverse where that's how you're going to flex or show off or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, imagine you go to a movie, you have an NFT, you forget it's there, and then 50 years later it's one of the biggest movies. They're who has an NFT of this movie? We want to buy it and it gains value or something in the future, and you have it, and you look into your wallet and you're like, oh shit, I went to this movie 50 years ago, some shit like that.
Yeah, and all the people that lost those super expensive Jordans or expensive Pokemon cards or some shit, they'll never lose it because it's going to be on the blockchain.
Or let's say that you have NFTs stored in an app and you get locked out and you don't have your code. That could be lost forever too.
shit.
break.
So it's still like you could still lose it, or like that's what I was also asking John, how like last time, people that like pass away that have these NFTs, I guess those just go into the void, like they're never used again if they're in a specific wallet.
Unless they don't know the wallet right
I'm
now.
sure maybe they're gonna develop a system on the blockchain where you can have a trust. Bam, you have
that's
all
exactly
of
what
your
you're saying.
you have all of your
That's what
NFTs, all of your cryptocurrency in that trust, and you have all of your family members as trustees that can access that account, right? So I think it's gonna just advance from what it is currently
Like make
today.
a smart contract and say as
Exactly.
soon as you
This
pass
person
away.
passes away, the funds are now dispersed to this person, taxes are cut, paid out, and bam, it's done.
Well, you can do that right now with smart contracts. Like, a perfect example would be artists. Like, let's say Picasso. Picasso, his artwork is selling for a bunch of money, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's been long gone, but what is his family getting out of it? Nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah. So what he could have done if he was in today's era, the artist was able to put a smart contract on his artwork that every time it's resold, it'll go to his foundation, or it'll go, if he doesn't have anyone to leave money behind, he could leave it to
A charity.
charitable organization. He could leave it to something else, and every time it's resold, a portion of it will just go straight to them.
And I wonder, because like what happens in today's world, if like someone dies, they have a bunch of money, they don't have family, nothing, the government just takes it. It gets cheated eventually. They'll get claimed because no one's claimed the funds or the property or whatever. I wonder what's going to happen in that situation. Is the government still going to be able to intervene and say, hey, no one's taking up all this Bitcoin, so we're just going to go ahead and take that? And if so, that kind of opens up the door of, can they just go and take anyone's Bitcoin? Or is that just not possible?
You're not able to unless you have the seed.
Unless you have a smart, like, I think that's the only way to make it work. But then I think the government's just too behind right now. Like,
Yeah.
there's already so much stuff out there with crypto that, like, how are you gonna force all these companies that are coming up with their coins to, like, I don't know, have smart contracts where if the government's able to verify death, because then at that point the government could just, say you passed away and then take your money or something like that. I don't know, like, I don't think it's gonna work. Like, I think we're just too far in it
Yeah.
to make it work at all.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, hopefully it gets to the point where it just like they won't even push for like absurd legislation, but like they've been coming up with some crazy ass shit, like the what was the thing where you have to pay taxes potentially on stocks or gains that you haven't even gotten. Yeah, so like that's insane. So just kind of looking at where the government is kind of going, like it's kind of just scary to see they're kind of on two completely different sides of the picture.
They have to either accept it or they have to fight against it. So, I mean, whichever one if they don't accept it, they're done. Like, whatever government doesn't accept it.
No, China's one that made it illegal, but that kind of
They
takes
have a different approach because them, like they're still they see the value. It's just they see the value against them too, right? Like if their people get access to it, it's gonna be they're gonna have a new government, right? They're gonna lose so much power, and they're gonna be able to choose a new government eventually, like because of the unrealized power that they're gonna have. Like that's 1 billion people that's kind of trapped in that country and being treated like shit. And over here, like we're kind of in the opposite, like we're all the people are ready to progress forward, but the government it's just still kind of like hesitant. And I think China is really scary just because they do see the value of Bitcoin, and if the Communist Party of China can maintain their power and maintain the world's future, a majority of the world's like future currency, that's going to be scary as shit. The next 20-30 years, what China plans on doing with like their
crypto
with their blockchain,
because they came up with a central currency, right?
Yeah, they've actually they're ahead of a lot of people, and that's the thing too, that I think China saw the potential of this. Like you said, the reason why they made it mining illegal is because they don't want decentralization, because Bitcoin is the foundation of decentralization. It allows you to remove the needs of government and banks, basically. So with China making it illegal to mine doesn't necessarily mean that they don't own anymore. I think they're still stacking. Even in the interview for the North Korea, I forgot what her name was, where she was talking about how she escaped from North Korea.
Mm.
She mentioned in that interview, I think it was Lex
Park, I
Friedman.
believe?
Yeah, exactly. I think it was on Joe Rogan's or it was on Lex Friedman's that she mentioned the North Korean government was utilizing Bitcoin. And China has been knowing about this for a long time because China has been working on their digital currency for over 7 years now. And they released it last Olympics, when the Olympics came out. They were allowing the digital yuan.
Yeah.
So with that integration of their own currency, they're taking away decentralization because they're allowing a centralized unit, basically, their centralized currency where they control what they can see because they're the ones who created it. Right? Versus with Bitcoin, no one has control. It's a global, and that's what the gold standard was before. And that's why I tell you guys that book that I'm reading, The Bitcoin Standard, I highly recommend it. It'll go into detail on the whole history of money. It breaks down every single civilization that's had money, the breakdown of bartering, kind of like how we've discussed before. But it's showing that history repeats itself. You know what I mean? So the gold standard was set to be able to have a global, use case of money, right? But once governments starting to get, greedy and they started abusing their power and ignoring the rules of economics, they removed the value of gold, the gold standard, and they made the US dollar the main standard now. So the US dollar, a lot of countries base their currency off of the US dollar. You know what I mean? But the issue is that the US dollar is controlled by people. People make the choices, which means, people naturally make issues of the war. And like I said, going back to history repeating itself, World War I, what happened? We spent all of our money to go to war, which led us in a bad position with World War II, which led us to the Great Depression. What were we doing there? We were still needing more money too to fund that war too. So we made gold illegal to be able to print more money. Right, so we took in the gold. We would be able to increase that, but then we're still limited to how much we have in our vault, how much we have in custody, so to say. Removing that allows us to print however much we want, which then gives them the power to decide how much they can and cannot print. Bitcoin removes that.
Do you think that we're gonna jump? Like, for example, let's say Bitcoin becomes the actual gold standard, in the digital world, in the cryptocurrency world. So every government starts making cryptocurrencies, they back it, let's say from Bitcoin. Do you think it'll ever get to a point where kind of like we're leaving the physical dollar, that we would leave the Bitcoin backing and maybe move on to another cryptocurrency? Like, do you think that would happen eventually?
Like
or do you
if
think it's
Ethereum takes over or something?
Like, or do you think it's impossible because of the amount of, just in general, do you think it's possible?
It's possible, but I honestly doubt it. Like I said, Bitcoin it was the first, and Bitcoin is really revolutionary in many ways. That
It's almost perfect.
Yeah, it's almost perfect. It's kind of crazy.
Like how the creator is just not even known. Like
Yeah.
that makes
That
it
blows my
even
mind.
better because good. It was developed by the new era of civilization, and I think that's really it adds to the mystique of Bitcoin, and the fact that there's only 21 million or something like that, that really creates a hard line. Whereas there's other cryptocurrencies, they're up in the billions, some have in the quadrillions, shitillions, you know what I mean, with Shiba or whatever, and the market cap is set and it's finite. And so I think that brings a ton of value. I think probably the biggest problem, and you'll probably have a lot more to say on it, is just the utility behind using Bitcoin regularly. Oh hey, I want to buy those weights from you. Let me send you Bitcoin. It's just not as ready to
I don't think
to
it is
handle
right
all
now.
the transactions that we do it as civilization today.
The reason I don't think it's like that right now is maybe because the whole supply isn't out. So do you think maybe when all the supply is out and for sure you can't mine anymore, at that point people just start using it like normal, or do you think that it'll just be like a
That's
backing
kind of
for
my question.
currency?
Yeah.
No, I think it'll be like gold, exactly like gold.
Like backing for currency.
It's going to be a digital asset that holds and retains value and gains value. It's an asset. It converted from peer to peer. Don't see Bitcoin as cash. It's not digital cash. It's digital gold because it's converted from the peer to peer lending to holding its value. You
so
know,
it's almost like you're using gold and saying, hey, I want to, put this gold and get X amount of money, buy some Cardano, and then bam, I'm going to use Cardano as my spending money.
Exactly. So that's what I was saying earlier. A lot of people believe that Bitcoin and Ethereum are direct competitors, which they're kind of two different things. They have similar functions where it's a currency, but at the same time, Bitcoin is not made for anything other than store value and peer-to-peer lending. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Versus Ethereum, you could use it for smart contracts. That's where you create the NFTs and you implement those smart contracts within the NFT. You use it for, paying everyday expenses, like you were saying. Because we're still going to need something to be able to trade. Do you go to McDonald's and pay them in gold?
No.
Exactly. You use cash. You use cash. You use cash. And that's why notes, and that's why if you go back in history, the reason why paper money was created is because it made it easier to be able to supply.
Mm-hmm.
It's a digital note, like people keeping record of it, like it's like how credit was formed, you know what I mean?
I'm sure now, like once we hit that stage in the United States, your phone, you transfer maybe some coins, or you transfer something, and you get a burger, you get a burrito, you get whatever you want.
You can
I
pay
mean, in the last 10 years, we went from using like cash and cards to paying with our phones and cards. Like, who really uses cash? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
really.
In the last 10 years, we already went from the paper money to digital money, but like still our version of it. Like the 20th century.
Still centralized.
Exactly. And it's gonna be crazy because we're literally going from a digital normal like dollar, right? You're paying with your phone, and everything's gonna advance from there.
I think that's making the transition easier though, going into like using your digital credit card like they're doing now.
Yeah,
and just scanning it. It's gonna be an easier transition. Hey, you don't have to use that now. You can use these coins or something.
Well, that's like the next step. Like that was the step literally right before throughout the last 5 years that they've been really pushing for, to push for like Apple Pay, Samsung Pay, Google Pay, and all that stuff. And now all those stores like across the U.S. or maybe the world have it. You know what I mean? So almost everyone is ready to kind of move to that next step. So that's crazy.
Yeah, and another big thing about NFTs is removing the middleman too. Like you said, like removing the middleman. Like one of the big things I saw is the music industry. Like people that want to like create music and make it into NFT, like they can do it themselves, or they can hire maybe a group of people to create it for them, but they don't need to necessarily now start going through these big companies, to get their music out there technically. Like it's going to give a lot more power to the creators now.
Versus like the record company or
Exactly.
If you want to be an artist, in order to get your music out, now they have, social media where you could use like SoundCloud and all those other things, but before then, even then, it's kind of hard to get traction unless you're pretty good.
Yeah.
You have to have skill, or you have to have something that people can appreciate, and that's why artwork is it's just the appreciation of someone's like what they're showcasing. You know what I mean? Because it's subjective. Art is subjective. So these people, what they're able to do is they're able to create what they want, just like they would normally, but instead of having to go and find a record deal. And then by the time they get paid, if they do release a hot track, it has to go through the whole funnel before they get the paycheck at the end. Marketing, everyone has to get paid before he gets it. By the time he gets it, you know what I mean? So
it's way diluted.
Exactly. So, and they're signing contracts for long periods of time. This takes that away because you're able to create your own content, you're able to sell your own content, you're able to make money off of your own content, and continue making every time it's resold.
And as long as people are pushed to those NFT markets, like they're joining right now in the masses, like you're gonna find different creators creating different music, and whoever's the best, or whoever connects with people. And it doesn't need to be one person, to be a couple people that make big music and they're the biggest stars out there. It could be like groups of people, like people that like this kind of music and NFTs, this kind of music. Like I don't know, it's just so much possibility.
You know what I was thinking? Like, let's say you're in the Metaverse and you go and buy a vinyl, and now you have the music. Like that's an NFT kind of, right? Yeah. So like maybe like on VV they'll add like a song or something like that with a vinyl, and the digital collectible is like a vinyl. They have like a song attached to it, and bam, now you own that song. And if you want to sell it, now that creator of the song. Oh, they did?
Ugly Bros, Ugly Bros, just to kind of explain, Ugly Bros is an NFT project on Cardano. And Cardano's like a network like Ethereum. It's a competitor to Ethereum. He created his own music. So he's an artist, and he makes music. So he attached that to his NFT. So once you own that NFT, you now own the rights to that music and that picture. Right, which is the whole NFT thing. So you can technically sell that music and make money off that music too, because you owned it now. So you could sell that music, but you have the ownership, so you could use it for whatever you want. But artists have already made albums of NFTs that are going to be sold in a limited amount as an NFT.
Isn't it counterintuitive for like Ugly Bros to kind of limit like how much they're putting out there because then like who's actually listening to their music? You know what I mean? Like, is there anyone that's playing Ugly Bros on the radio or something like that?
No, so it's Ugly Bros is just like I had said earlier. It's like his own personal project. So he's an independent artist. So he's releasing it, but I'm just giving you that example of you can technically make digital music and sell it on that NFT, and then that buyer has now the ownership of that music. But it applies to the same thing as like any big artist that releases a big album. There's still going to be streaming services. There's still going to be ways to be able to listen to that music. It's kind of the flex aspect of it, where you're owning the right to that music. You know, like you said, like if Drake were to drop an album, you know, at that point, you know, if he only releases 100,000 copies, they buy all the copies. You have that ownership. You can flex that you have the ownership of it. People can still hear the music, but you'll have the ownership of it. Just like the profile thing.
And just like people flex, like, you know, oh, I got tickets to the Drake concert, you know, like something like that.
Exactly. And that's why the digital version of everything, the flex aspect of NFTs is so crucial, because we can't really flex our physical collectibles, our physical items, unless you take a picture of it. But once that picture is done, it's done. When you have an NFT, you can integrate it to a digital world where people can go and view and appreciate your artwork, appreciate it, and they could see more of your digital stuff.
So let's end it on talking maybe a little bit about the places you can buy it. Marketplaces like
That's a good question.
VV, OpenSea, just the different places you can buy these NFTs. I think VV is the biggest one.
Yeah, if I could, like, I feel like I'm at the infancy of my NFT exploration, and I find that like I started with VV just because when I was hearing about like all these other ones like OpenSea, VV honestly made it so easy. You just go in, you download an app, they have their own like V-Bucks or whatever it's called, and you literally are able to just buy the NFTs right there. Whereas I find with a lot of the other platforms, you have to make a wallet, you have to, you know, move from a wallet to like the platform or whatever, and then you buy it for however many, you know, Cardano or whatever you're trying to get. And I feel like that was just so much for a beginner. I just didn't want to do that, and I just adapted to kind of move to the VVverse. But I don't know. I think there's a lot of cons to it. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think with just like in multiple anything, there's going to be different master levels of it. There's going to be the beginners, which, you know, since we're in the infancy of NFTs, it's a little bit difficult to make it as easy because it's new technology that's integrated.
And it's so many marketplaces.
Exactly. So what, like you said, VV is definitely a beginner one that has very good, you know, content, very good IP in it. I would recommend that one. Like you said, you can download it on, you know, the Apple Store or on the marketplace for Androids. But with that one, it's similar, like you said. You could basically put in-app currency, be able to purchase something with the App Store's money, kind of like you do on any app. If you buy something on an app for a game online or on your phone, it'll charge you on your credit card or whatever. You'll get that digital money like V-Bucks. In this case, it'd be gems for VV, and you can use that to buy your collectibles. The only thing is everything is locked right now with VV, so that's a big, you know, want to let everyone know that anyone who's investing in VV needs to know that right now, if whatever you put in, you cannot take out right now. Once they integrate to Ethereum, which they're on the process of doing, they'll be able to get a bigger marketplace. It opens up the marketplace to allow more business, and at the same time, it'll allow you to cash out at that time. But right now, they haven't integrated yet, so any money that you put in as gem or convert US dollar to gem, you cannot convert back from gem to US dollar right now.
So you're stuck in the ecosystem of the app until they migrate it into Ethereum.
Exactly. But if you're, like I said, they have a lot of, I would highly recommend you look into them because like we were discussing earlier, they have Disney, they have DC, they have a deal with the US Postal Service. They released the first digital stamp on VV. So they have heavy hitters, heavy IP. Exactly. All these Star Wars, all of them, they're all within this app. So you can go on your app right now, download it. You can view all these things. And if you are wanting to be a long-term collector and make long-term flips, it's a good investment right now. You know, you're purchasing in right now. Not a financial advisor or anything like that, but we got in super early and we're seeing the benefits of it. You know, versus like our younger cousins and, you know, of course you, who's just getting into it now. You missed out on all the opportunity when everything was cheap. The hype is starting to get bigger because we're evolving to this stuff.
And some of those might end up being worthless. Some of those might be. I mean, I think the more you buy, the more chance you have that one of those can be a really good, you know, NFT.
You have to do your research on the project, of course, the IP, the loving, because in order for something to sell, someone has to buy it. So that someone has to appreciate the artwork or the, you know, relate to what you're selling to be able to purchase it. But other platforms, real quick, would be like there's Topps NFT. They it's like Topps, like the Topps cards, like company Topps. They sell digital MLB cards, you know, non-fungible tokens for that. There's Terra Virtua. They sell digital comics too, but they have partnership with Dynamite Comics, so it's more of like the smaller branding of comics instead of DC Marvel. They've made partnership with Godzilla too, so they have statues of Godzilla and King Kong. They have comic books of Godzilla. So there's different other platforms where you can pay with your credit card right now, and those are the easier ones that I would recommend. We could definitely go a little bit more in detail on projects, but if you're a little bit more advanced, then you can definitely use OpenSea, like you said. That requires you, of course, create a digital wallet, have to send digital funds from Coinbase or whatever decentralized exchange or centralized exchange you use to convert to your wallet, and then use your digital wallet to purchase on a platform or a DApp. So it's a little bit more complicated. As time progresses, it'll definitely make it more easier, because the easier that makes it, the more people that will use it.
Yeah, for sure. Because I honestly believe, like, if Cardano's platform or Ethereum's platform was similar to VV's, in which you can just go on an app, you know, put in your credit card info or your Apple Pay, bam, buy it. I think everyone would be doing that right now. Or at least a majority of people. Whereas right now it's kind of, we're still in the infancy stages where people don't even know what wallets are still, and well, at least the mass population, and so only the people that know about NFTs and know how to use these things are actually taking advantage of them. So even though I feel like I'm a little late, honestly, I feel like it's still super early.
It's super early.
Still early.
Yeah, definitely early, because it's still going to continue to evolve. More people are going to have to use NFTs. So the earlier you're getting in, the better your chances, because, like I said, the first digital, you know, Disney collectible is going to be worth a lot of money. Just like the first Marvel comic was worth a lot of money. Yeah. It's the same principle, but a digital version of it. Cool.
Well, I guess we'll end it there. Stay tuned for episode number 3. George out.
John.
Carlos.
See ya.